Well, hello. Welcome to Orchid Bloom's podcast. Welcome back, bloomers. I am your host, Orchid Brown, with Orchid Bloom's podcast. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, and X at Orchid I Brown. There is a new blog post now available on the website, taonetwork.ca/blog, called Reclaiming Your Life, What It Looks Like, and How It Feels. Take a read, and I hope it inspires you. This week's podcast episode is on empathy burnout. A lot of people are experiencing empathy burnout, especially now, and that includes myself. I notice it would have been a problem after COVID, but I didn't really think too much into it. I figured that once lockdown was over, people would just start acting like themselves again. But it was actually the opposite. People were just acting out left, right, and center. I thought maybe things would get back to normal, but I feel even within myself that I am experiencing empathy burnout, and I'm not really sure how to get back on track myself. So maybe that's how others are feeling. You can even tell based on my entrepreneurship podcast episode that customers and clients have been bleeding me dry. Just bleeding me dry because everyone is having problems. People are losing family, friends, there's death here and there. People are experiencing severe illnesses and homelessness. We have had it before, prior to COVID, but it seems to be more intense now. It's just constant. You become numb to it at this point because everyone is telling the same story and they're all wanting empathy. They want you to feel for them, but it's just so hard because every single time you turn around, someone's going through something. You want to be there for people, but you have hit your capacity. I have hit my capacity, especially with strangers. People you don't know that want you to feel sorry for them. And you want to, but you just can't because this is a story you just keep hearing over and over and over again throughout your day, and it becomes every day. When you try to explain that what they're experiencing seems to be a pandemic, like we came out of a pandemic and now we're back into a pandemic of just a series of unfortunate events because everyone is going through something intense, they seem to have a void of empathy themselves for everyone else because they're living in their experience and they don't want to hear that everyone else is going through something. They want to be the main character in this story of tragic things that are happening to them. You just see a void. Like I said, a void of empathy within them. Like they just don't care. They just want to be the main character of this disaster. They want people to feel empathy for them, but they don't want to feel any empathy towards anyone else. And that is really sad because the people who are going through it are clearly experiencing empathy burnout as well. And I feel the worst part about it is that once you meet that one person who wants to be the main character of that disaster, you find yourself meeting the exact same people, like I said, around the corner who feel that what they're going through is bigger than everybody else's. You better not dare bring up that others have it worse and they should be grateful for the life that they have. They will snap and share what is truly in their hearts, which is, I don't care that they're dying. I need my needs satisfied now. And I just look at them in shock. Like, how do you expect me to show you empathy when you don't even have empathy for anyone else? I just check out, and personally, I don't want to speak to you again. I'm burnt. I want nothing to do with you because I just can't. I just can't. Surround yourself with the people that are going to make you the main character in their story. Just like those families who are watching their family members, slowly die. that family member's death and what that family member is experiencing becomes the main character in their story, and it hurts them, and they're not going to recover. It takes years to recover. They may be able to walk out of the house and show a fragment of what they used to be, but it's never going to be completely the same because their life is permanently altered by that loss. So the reason why I say all this is because I hear that a lot at my current job. Clients don't care that other clients are dying or on their deathbed or homeless or need help. There was this one client that I was talking to, and it was almost the end of the day. And this client said to me, why don't you just put me first? Because even though you're trying to help another client that is dying, they're on their deathbed, they're in a hospital, their family surrounding them, just help me first. They're already dead. I was silent for a few minutes because I wanted that client to hear what they were saying. He ended up over talking, blabbering on to get out of the awkward situation that he had placed himself in by saying something like that. Then I just ended the call because at this point I never want to speak to you again. We have nothing to talk about. If you have no empathy for someone dying on their deathbed or have any consideration for what their families are experiencing, I have no empathy for you. So what is empathy? Oxford Dictionary states the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. Webster's dictionary gave more details, of course. The action of understanding, being aware of, being sensitive to, and vicariously experiencing the feelings, thoughts, and experience of another. Now, a lot of people confuse sympathy with empathy. And this is something that I really appreciated about Webster's dictionary, because I'm like scrolling down to see what else it's going to give me. And bam, it gave me like a breakdown of, the difference between sympathy and empathy. So it says sympathy and empathy both refers to a caring response to the emotional state of another person, but a distinction between them is typically made. Sympathy is a feeling of sincere concern for someone who is experiencing something difficult or painful. Empathy involves actively sharing in the emotional experience of the other person. But Webster did not stop there. It broke down the difference between compassion and empathy. Webster states compassion and empathy both refer to a caring response to someone else's distress, while empathy refers to an active sharing in the emotional experience of the other person. Compassion adds to that emotional experience a desire to alleviate the person's distress. So now I really appreciate Webster's dictionary for doing this for me because, it made me really think about some of these words and what they truly mean and how they're separate from each other in certain ways. They're similar in certain aspects, as the definition states. It's a caring response. But how different they are is the meat of the actual word itself and what it truly means. So I really appreciated Webster's, breaking that down. Very much so. So after kind of going through that, I started thinking about, all of the people that I meet that I have met, not even meet. It's not like right now I met them. I've at this point, it's been like a year since I've met some of these people. And I even told them to their face at some point, you have too much empathy. Like too much empathy. I can tell when someone is lying to use their empathy against them. And I would just stand there and watch them and their reaction and how they truly believe that these people are actually feeling what they're feeling. And I told them to their faces, separate occasion, not all of them together. Like, I'm not crazy. Okay, maybe a little bit. But I would, say to them on separate occasion that they have way too much empathy. And honestly, it makes me sick. It just makes me sick. And then one of the girls said to me, "Why would you say that?" And I said to her, "Because I used to be you." And being faced with a version of yourself from the past in so many different people, and you're watching all of this, just kind of brings me back to the time where I used to do that. And it kind of made me feel stupid, because deep down, I knew they were lying, but I still gave them what they wanted anyways. And I said, "Do you truly feel that what this person was saying to you was truly accurate?" And they paused, separate occasions, of course. They paused, and they both kind of had the same response, where they just kind of looked at me and thought about it and just kind of decided that it is what it is. And I kept thinking to myself, I don't know how I did it in the past to be able to see the best in people constantly, even when they're doing something wrong to you, even if they're using you or using your emotions or your feelings or your caring response against you for their own benefit. I just thought to myself, how did I continue to go around and give that same exact response to so many other people as if it didn't affect me? But it did. Now that I have grown out of that phase of doing this, and mind you, these people that I'm talking about are older than I am. Older, they've lived longer life than I have. And yet, I've come to this realization a little bit earlier in my life, because I was like, listen, I'm not going to the grave like this. I am not going to the grave like this. I want to go to the grave with no regrets. And I've been saying that since college, out loud to anyone. I have no regrets, and I want to keep it that way for the rest of my life. And so this change in me, my boundaries are high. My cutoff game is good. I can actually see through a person. I can look into their eyes and just tell who they are on the inside. This is a skill that took years to learn. But to see people that are older than me, who are still stuck in the same phase that I was years ago, pissed me off. It made me sick. And so I just kind of was hoping to understand myself through them by asking some of these questions, like why did you believe them? You seriously did not notice that they didn't mean what they said. And like I said, they paused. And during that pause, I could see it in their eyes that they knew, but they just couldn't help themselves. It's their nature to do that. And that kind of explained my reaction in the past of constantly giving and giving and giving and giving to people who did not really want to change, people who prefer to surround themselves with people who have high empathy, because the reaction is what they feed off of. It's the constant watching them run around like a chicken with their head cut off, trying to make their lives better, to help them be more happy, not knowing that you can't do that for them. They have to go and do it themselves. And so to watch these people that are older than me still struggle in that department, just kind of, it just made me sick. It just made me sick, but very sad for them, because they have made decisions in their lives and they don't notice that the mask of happiness that they have on their face, it's cracking. And they're asking for help. They're crying for help, and I can see it. But because of what I've been through, I just can't save you. I can't save them, because at the end of the day, you're going to have to save yourself. You're giving so much to people. You're trying to save so many people. You want to be there for people. You're giving off 200% of yourself and your energy to people that don't really care. Like if you said no, they're going to throw a tantrum and they'll go away and they'll be, narcissistic behaviors, but they always come back to try to trigger you again because it's reaction that they like. One of the females is actually married to a narcissist, and she doesn't realize that she's in fear every day that her husband is going to beat her. And I kept thinking to myself, why are you living in fear of speaking up to your husband or telling your husband how you feel because of his reaction? In my mind, I'm thinking, has he hit you before? But she's such a meek, kind person that she's always giving, and I'm always like stopping her from doing anything for me because I really don't need it. Like, I'm talking, but I actually don't need anything from you. I just like to vent. For me, I release negative energy by venting. So I don't want you to do anything. Just listen, give me your feedback, and we just act like this conversation never happened. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's all I really need. But when I'm talking to these people that have such high empathy, it's they just feel an urgency to jump up and try to be your hero. And I see them doing this, and even the other person, it's a guy, I see him doing it sometimes, and I have to be like, stop. And he looks at me like confused, and I said, I'm only talking. I don't actually want you to do anything. I just need to vent. But he didn't understand that, because his system is programmed to, when he hears that you're having a problem, he has to jump to the rescue. And I'm like, calm down. There's no need for you to do anything. I was like, you're stressing me out, and I'm just here to vent. And he's just looking at me like, how am I stressing you out? I said, well, it's almost like the neurons in your body just gives off this energy, and I can feel it because I can feel your energy. I can see your energy. So when you're giving off this energy, it just kind of makes me feel anxious, and it makes me feel stressed. So if I'm talking to you, just don't do anything. And so I have to almost coach these people in how not to react just because someone seems like they're in distress. Sometimes you don't need to do anything. Sometimes you just need to listen, understand, and release. Now that I've come into the new being that I am, these people that maybe have been used to me before, or new people who see me and they think, oh, she's a good source. Let's go unload our burdens on her. When they do that, I just kind of look at them and I let them go and I let them finish, and I give my 2 cents. And then I just go, okay, well, I'm done here and get up and walk away. And you could see the shock on their faces because they're thinking, did I read her wrong? I thought she's one of those people. I needed a new source, but I don't give them a reaction because what you're saying to me really has nothing to do with me. It's not something I need to fix. So why would I go out of my way trying to help you fix something that you've been doing all of your life now, maybe a couple of years, and still have not actively tried to fix it? You've just jumped from people to people to people to people talking about the same things and coming up with all of these disasters in your life and not fix it, not see that you're the problem. Why would I waste my time? See, that's boundaries. It's boundaries right there. I love it. I love who I am right now. There is no bullshit. I have no excuses for you. You are the problem. It just makes me sad. It makes me very sad. And I love these people that have high empathy, but I also feel a need to protect them because I used to be them. My empathy was used against me. It was used to hold me back and leave me stuck. And that was my experience. And that's something that I never want to go back to. I can actually see in these high empathy people's eyes how they wish they were stronger, or they really would love to figure out what they could do to help themselves, because all they can do is help others. They don't know how to help themselves. They are sitting there and they're screaming for help, but they just have the smile on their face and they're ready to help you, but they're screaming for help and they're hoping that people will see it, that someone will try to help. And yeah, they can actually see it. They just don't want to help you. You have the empathy to help them. They just want that source that you are willing to give away for free. And a lot of people that have high empathy, they don't really know how to regulate themselves. They just feel stuck. They feel miserable. They feel like they haven't done enough, that they can't do more. They feel as though what they have to give isn't enough. So they have to keep working hard and keep trying and just have to be there for people, wanting to give people the best outcome, the best service, the best everything. And honestly, those people are pure of heart. And a lot of people in the world needs to understand that you need to take care of those people. They're more fragile than you. But it hurts my heart every day that I can't tell them that what they're doing to themselves is killing them. And I can't get involved in any way or save them because this is their lesson. They need to learn this all on their own or they will never learn. Empathy can be a double-edged sword. I should do a blog about that since I'm not going to elaborate on it on here. So yeah, I'll post a blog on it. It took me forever to learn this. Empathy can make you sacrifice yourself for another. You feel so deeply for them that you just want to make their pain go away. You want everything to be perfect. As I said, these people that I've met in past year, that's what they do. They somehow don't consider themselves at all. And I have to constantly remind them every single time I come into their presence, I don't need you to do anything. You are enough. We can just talk. You don't have to do anything. And then you can see them visibly calm down and the tension in your body just relaxes because for once, someone is talking to them and it's not because they need something. To be able to provide that kind of peace to people is incredible and made me feel so good. But it's not like they're a source for me. It was just finally seeing someone slowly try to accept themselves. And I can see why they keep coming around me. I can see why they keep wanting to talk to me because I'm one of the only person in the world that doesn't need anything from them. Just their presence. That's all I need. They're awesome. They're great conversationalists. Like, oh my gosh, if you just took the time to get to know some of these people, you would think, damn, I really like you, you know? And I feel that through this interaction, through these, high empathy people, that I'm constantly reminding myself that we are not kind to ourselves. And that's the truth. We're not kind to ourselves. And people with high empathy, they're not kind to themselves. They're so kind to everybody else, but they're not kind to themselves. And I just want to hug these people. Just want to hug them. That's literally how I feel about people with high empathy. But at the same time, I still can't stand them because they just bring me back to a time where I never want to go back to. So at some point, I felt like I could turn on and off my empathy. That's literally what this experience of empathy burnout has caused me. And I didn't realize that I was in a state of empathy burnout. But the turning on and off was kind of like something that I did. It just, one moment it's there, next moment I was like, you know what? I'm going to turn you off. You're just too damn loud. And I do not have time for this. I would rather sleep. I just want to be by myself. That's literally how I've been feeling for the past few years. I'm very selective about the people that I have around me. Very, very selective. But I realized that what I actually do is compartmentalize situations and conversations. I listen to what is being said or shared and then determine if it is really out of their control or was it a consequence of their action. I have no empathy when I realize that you are the problem. So it seems like I know how to turn it off, but really that's what I'm actually doing. And that kind of makes me happy because I don't want to be that type of person that doesn't have empathy for people. but I need to understand why I don't have it in certain situations. And I've been really taking the time to kind of understand myself and what I'm actually doing in these situations. It means that I am protecting my time and energy. That's exactly what I was trying to do. You have to guard your heart, not just against romantic partners, but people who comes into your life to drain you. You have to make a decision, life or death. And I say this a lot in many podcast episodes. And the reason why I do is because I really want you to understand that you really do need to choose life. What does empathy burnout mean? Empathy burnout typically affects a person after they have expanded too much of themselves while interacting with others. This emotional drain refers to overgiving oneself without taking time to replenish. Symptoms often include low energy levels, mental exhaustion, and compassion fatigue. Now, I've experienced all of this. And one of the ways that I've coped with empathy burnout is putting myself in isolation, in just complete silence. I mean, don't worry, I take a break and I make a podcast episode like I do here. But most of the time, I just sit on my couch whenever I have the time. I will eat good food, whatever makes me happy. I may watch TV. I find that lately I haven't been watching Netflix or Disney Plus or Prime in any way. I just enjoy the silence. And this is something that I do every year. But I found in the last 2 years, I've just been in isolation a lot. I've been in isolation. I have been listening to my feelings. I have been listening to my thoughts. And I have been trying to process a lot of things that have been going on in my life. Not just now, just all of my life, going all the way back to childhood and just taking this moment to just take care of my inner child, to do the shadow work. You know what I mean? So I still feel like I do have empathy burnout, but it's not to the extent that it used to be because I have just stayed in isolation. I don't text people as much as I do. I don't, post up on social media personally as I used to. I don't interact with as many people as I would have in the past. I find that with my career or my job, I do that enough with strangers. Now I just need to replenish myself, and that's what I've been doing. So that's how I've been coping. It's the isolation and being by myself and just hearing my own thoughts, just peaceful energy. A high level of empathy is good, but without conscious skills to deal with it, it can result in a withdrawal from caring or feeling empathy for others. And because I've been doing it basically all of my life, I withdrew. I just withdrew, and it's for me. It's not for anybody else. It's for me. And I love it because I'm the main character. Now, I had mentioned that, I felt that maybe I was losing my empathy. I think I mentioned it. Well, if I haven't, I just did. And so I started looking up the signs of lack of empathy. And I have a list here for y'all. So let's see if any of you actually have the signs of lack of empathy. And of course, I'm going to give you commentary on if I have experienced any of these as well. So you know how it goes. You've been listening to my podcast episodes for long enough to know how it goes. So the first on the list is disregarding other people's opinions and underlying emotions. I do that sometimes, but it's when you're trying to use your opinions and emotions to get at me or to affect me or to cause some distress in my life. That's when you will not see any empathy, my friend. Criticizing others without thinking about how they feel. I mean, I do that, but it's also the truth. So it's not criticizing. I'm telling you the truth. And if you feel that it's a criticism, it's because that's not what you came to me for. You didn't come to me for the truth. You came to me so I can lie to you. And that makes you feel better. Now, some people can say that they don't have a problem with the truth. They might just say that it's your delivery. Then you shouldn't have come to me then. That's how I end it. Next one on the list, finding fault with others and not taking responsibility for one's action. Wish I could say I fall under that category, but I do not. I take responsibility for all of my actions. I will tell you, if I'm being petty, I'm being petty, and I own it. So next on the list is struggling with forming and maintaining relationships on a personal and professional level. I do have that problem, but I also went through a phase where I was attracting a lot of narcissists in friends and relations. And so at that time, I was struggling with forming and maintaining relationships, but it had really nothing to do with empathy, or lack of empathy. It does have something to do with empathy, but not lack of empathy. Sorry, I need to clarify that. So I just did not know how to have boundaries with narcissists or people that have narcissistic behaviors. And so I was struggling in both of those areas. You go to work, you have a narcissistic boss. Oh my gosh, you have narcissistic coworkers. It was like everywhere I went, the parasites were there. Yes, I'm calling narcissistic people or people with narcissistic behavior parasites, because that's how they feel to me. So that's how I would explain that part, but it had nothing to do with lack of empathy. So the next on the list is you are self-centered. You blame the victim. You're critical. Dismiss other people's feelings. I think I already covered some of these. Having trouble connecting. Hold a grudge. I hold a grudge, but it's not because I lack empathy. It's because I'm sensitive. And when you hurt my feelings, I will hold a grudge. My friend, I am going to hold a grudge. Anywho, monopolizing conversations. I try not to do that, but sometimes I do when I just don't want to hear you anymore. Sharing irrelevant experience. This could mean the person feels worse or make them feel like what they are going through is nothing. And it seems that when I started this podcast episode and the explanation that I gave you from what I'm experiencing at work with clients, seems like I'm just dismissing what they're going through, but it really isn't. It's just trying to get these clients to understand that there are people out there that have it much worse, and you should just be grateful for your life. You are not dead. You are not even dying. I understand that what you're going through is so difficult, but you have life. You do. So now that I've gone through that, I don't feel that I lack empathy. I just feel that I don't, like I said, I don't give you any excuses anymore. I don't. And if I did something wrong, I'll own it. And I'm not the type of person that's going to lie and say, no, I didn't do it. I will not gaslight you. I'm just going to tell you the truth. And if I lose you, then you weren't supposed to be here. Like it's a main character energy, people. You know, we accept what is in front of us. We accept who we are and we move on. So out of fear that this podcast episode might be short, I found an article at Physicians Wellness Hub on what compassion fatigue meant. I believe some of the things discussed in this article is relevant to this topic. So definitely look it up and read if you can. Again, don't ask me what the website is. I just told you what the name, on the website was and, the name of the article. So you can even look up what is compassion fatigue and you may find it. You may find it. The first article hit me hard. Like this article, it hit me hard. Compassion fatigue is the cost of caring for others or for their emotional pain resulting from the desire to help relieve the suffering of others. It is known as secondary trauma. And this is what I meant by it hit me hard, because I've never looked at my experiences from being so empathetic to people and being there for people and pouring out myself and going above and beyond to try to please people and make them happy, I never looked at it as secondary trauma. I never did. So, like I said, the article started and I felt like I got a punch in my face. And then when I think about the people that I do know who have high empathy, it just makes me sad as well as angry, because they don't know that what they're doing to themselves is traumatizing. They don't know. So let's continue with bits and pieces of the article that really stood out to me. It referenced the way that other people's trauma can become your own. That has happened to me before, as I just mentioned. I hate it, and I promised myself I would never do that again. And now you can't catch me doing that again. So it noted that compassion fatigue is not the same as burnout. And I was like, okay, break it down. I thought, girl, don't play with me. That's literally what I thought when I read it. Don't play with me. Compassion fatigue is not burnout. Okay. It explains that burnout is a psychological syndrome of emotional exhaustion, depersonalization, and reduces personal accomplishment. It typically emerges over time as a result to prolonged stress and can occur in any profession. And I was like, okay. So maybe I'm not experiencing empathy burnout. It could be compassion fatigue. Let's see. They went to the signs. They provided me a list. You know how I feel about lists. So, signs of compassion fatigue: feeling of helplessness and powerlessness, reduced feelings of empathy and sensitivity, feeling overwhelmed and exhausted by work demands, feeling detached, numb, and emotionally disconnected, loss of interest in activities you used to enjoy, increased anxiety, sadness, anger, and irritability, difficulty sleeping and sleep disturbance like nightmares, physical symptoms like headaches, nausea, upset stomach, and dizziness, increased conflict in personal relationship, neglect of your own self-care, withdrawal and self-isolation, an increase in substance as a form of self-medication. Okay, so it sounds like I'm experiencing compassion fatigue. Yeah, I think what I broke down to you is compassion fatigue. Now I'm wondering, which one am I feeling? Okay. I feel like now that, we've gone through that breakdown, I feel like I'm experiencing both, but okay. So the article does touch on coping and management strategies, so I would recommend you go and read it. I'm not really going to cover it here. I have my own coping mechanism. So since this podcast episode is mainly about empathy burnout, that's why I'm not going to go into that recommendation for compassion fatigue. It talks also about how to heal from empathy burnout. So time away from work is 1, meaningful hobbies is 2, exercise is 3, self-care may all help with compassion fatigue and burnout. So it seems as though, the certain coping mechanism and management strategies that they talked about in that article can also be used when it comes to burnout as well. So relax, develop relaxation strategies such as meditation, cultivating mindfulness in the moment, identifying other sources that may help. So it's great that, someone's going to give you the answer to how you can help yourself cope or, manage empathy burnout or compassion fatigue. But really, at the end of the day, you have to kind of come up with your own management strategies. And I can't really tell you what to do. And so that's kind of the reasons why I did not really want to go into any recommendations, is because you have to spend some time with yourself and figure out what you need, right? You need to figure out what you need. So that's how I'm going to leave that part out. So I feel that one of the things that has helped me with, empathy burnout and compassion fatigue was boundaries. I did an episode in the past where I discussed boundaries. I stated it in that podcast episode that it was good to have boundaries, but you also need to have boundaries on your own self. Both have to be in place for it to be effective. If you break your own self boundaries, then you will break the boundaries you put on others. Both has to be in place for boundaries to work. And it's very important. And I'm going to keep repeating this going forward in so many other podcast episodes. So if you didn't get it now, you will get it later. I put boundaries on my empathy. I really do. As well as my compassion. How did I do that? I think I already told you, but let me repeat it again. I always end a conversation that I have with somebody by asking, what are you doing about it? These people come to me with a problem. They start venting. They start throwing their burdens on me, crying. Their life is over. Okay, now that you've acknowledged how you feel, now that you've acknowledged that the situation's fucked up, what are you going to do about it? Don't just complain. What are you going to do about it? That was my way of taking the responsibility of their situation and giving it back to them, because I can't carry it for them. They want me to, but I won't. So I don't feel the need to try and solve their problems. I need to distance myself from it, because I have put myself in how many situations where I was experiencing secondary trauma, and I just can never do that to myself again. It will never be solved with me because they are the ones going through it, and they need to create a system that works for them, because systems won't stick if you're creating it for them. If they are creating that system for themselves to help protect themselves, to help heal themselves, to help break them from this repetitive system that they're in, that they feel like they have no control over, if all of that needs to be done by them. They need to undo it themselves and stick to it and practice their boundaries. It would be a waste of my time and energy to even try to create a system for them. It really will. A lot of people don't understand. And I think this, if you go back to some of the first podcast episodes that I had on this platform, for example, the episode with Dr. Tiffany Ross, she's an actual psychotherapist, and she was explaining in that podcast episode way in the beginning that she would go into these situations, and she said some of the mistakes that she made, when she first started out, was trying to do all the work for her client, because she understands, she empathized with them, and she had so much compassion for them, and she saw herself in them, that she wanted to save them. And it took her some time to realize that she was doing all the work and nothing was sticking. It just wasn't sticking. So she realized that she can only help people that wanted to help themselves. They had to actually put in the work and prove that this is something that they really wanted to do. And she would walk with them every step of the way, but that's as far as she would go. If they take one step, she'll take one step with them. But if they're not taking a step, she will not take a step with them. And I love that she had boundaries like that with her clients. And so I took that conversation that I had from her, or I had with her in that podcast episode, and I applied it and I worked on it. So yeah, you need to go listen to that podcast episode. I did a few podcast episodes with her. She's on TikTok as well as Dr. Tiffany Ross. Honestly, love her to death. Love her to death. She will always be in my heart. And I follow her on TikTok as well. And I believe Instagram, because I love her. Oh, as well as her Facebook group. I just love her. I really do. And she has so much knowledge and experience to share. And for people who are empathetic, such as her, and have so much compassion, you'll connect to her and you'll kind of understand what she's talking about. And you will start to implement certain things that she had to put in her life to help herself, and also help other people. So the point that she was trying to make was that her clients had to be more proactive in solving their own problems. You can't take on that burden. You will meet people that want you to do that. Do all the work for them, of course, but you have to protect yourself. You really do. So this concludes this podcast episode. I hope it was helpful and you received what you needed from the topic. Thank you for supporting the Orchid Blooms podcast. Please subscribe, follow, rate, and leave a review on the podcast or the episode, depending on which platform you're on. We also have social media pages, so subscribe and follow Orchid Bloom's YouTube channel, The Ambitious Obsession Network on Facebook, at The Ambitious Ops on Twitter, at The Ambitious Net on Instagram. Don't forget to share your favorite podcast episode with your family and your friends, and I hope you have a splendid day.